Have you ever heard of a leader who was respected even by his enemies? A warrior who, after conquering a city, chose mercy over massacre. Today, we're diving into the epic story of one of history's most fascinating figures, Saladin, the man who united the Muslim world and faced the might of the Crusades. Our story begins in 1137, in Tikrit, modern-day Iraq. A boy named Yusuf was born into a Kurdish family of military leaders. No one could have predicted this child would one day be known to the world as Salah al-Din, or Saladin, meaning the righteousness of the faith. His early life wasn't about grand battles. He was a quiet, scholarly young man, more interested in theology and the Quran than in warfare. He loved gardens and quiet contemplation, but destiny, as it often does, had a very different path laid out for him. His uncle Shirkuh was a brilliant general serving the powerful ruler of Syria, Nur al-Din, in the 1160s. A chaotic power struggle erupted in Egypt. Shirkuh was sent to intervene, and he brought his young, reluctant nephew, Saladin, along with him. This was Saladin's crucible. He was thrown into the complex world of military campaigns and political intrigue. He fought against the Crusader kingdom of Jerusalem and rival Egyptian factions. Initially, he hated it. He once said he only went like someone being led to his death. But these campaigns forged him. He learned strategy, leadership, and the harsh realities of power. When both his uncle and the Egyptian caliph died in 1169, Saladin, through a mix of skill and political maneuvering, found himself as the vizier of Egypt. He was still technically under Nur al-Din, but he was now the effective ruler of one of the wealthiest lands in the world. He consolidated his power, reformed the economy, and built up a formidable army. He established colleges and hospitals, showing that his vision wasn't just about conquest, but also about building a just and prosperous society. Then, in 1174, his overlord, Nur al-Din, died. This created a power vacuum. The Muslim world, from Egypt to Syria and Mesopotamia, was fractured and divided. The various emirs and princes were more interested in fighting each other than uniting against the common threat. The Crusader states established along the coast. Saladin saw this disunity as the greatest weakness. He believed it was his divine mission to unite these lands under one banner to fulfill the dream that Nur al-Din had started. What followed was a decade of tireless campaigning. Saladin wasn't just fighting Crusaders. He was fighting fellow Muslims. This was a delicate process. He used a combination of diplomacy, strategic marriages, and, when necessary, military force. He patiently and methodically brought Aleppo, Damascus, and Mosul under his influence. By the mid-1180s, for the first time in generations, a single, powerful leader controlled the Muslim lands surrounding the Crusader kingdoms. He had forged an empire, and now he turned his eyes toward his ultimate goal, Jerusalem. The situation with the Kingdom of Jerusalem was a tinderbox. For years, a truce had existed, but it was fragile. It was shattered by a man named Reynold of Chatillon, a Crusader lord known for his brutality and recklessness. He repeatedly attacked Muslim caravans and pilgrimage routes, breaking every treaty. The final straw came when Reynold attacked a massive, wealthy caravan, stealing its goods and imprisoning its people. When Saladin's envoys demanded reparations, Reynold arrogantly refused. Saladin swore an oath to kill Reynold with his own hands. War was now inevitable. In the summer of 1187, Saladin assembled the largest army he had ever commanded. He cleverly lured the Crusader army, led by King Guy of Lesignan, away from their well-watered strongholds. He besieged the city of Tiberias, knowing the Crusaders would have to march across a dry, scorching plain to relieve it. It was a brilliant, deadly trap. On July 4th, 1187, near the two hills known as the Horns of Hattin, the two armies clashed. The Crusader army was exhausted, dehydrated, and demoralized. Saladin's forces had encircled them, setting fire to the dry grass to choke them with smoke. The battle was a complete and utter disaster for the Crusaders. Their army was annihilated. King Guy was captured, along with many of his most important nobles, and true to his word, Saladin personally executed Reynold of Chatillon, a moment of personal justice in a war of grand strategy. With the Crusader army destroyed, the path to Jerusalem was open. Saladin's forces swept through the kingdom, capturing city after city. Akka, Jaffa, Sidon with little resistance. Finally, in September, his army stood before the walls of the Holy City itself. Jerusalem had been in Christian hands for 88 years, ever since the First Crusade captured it in a brutal massacre. The defenders, led by Balian of Ibelin, braced for a similar fate. They prepared for a desperate defense, but they were vastly outnumbered. After a brief siege, Balian came to negotiate. He threatened that if Saladin didn't offer terms, the defenders would destroy the city, including the holy sites sacred to both Muslims and Christians, and kill every Muslim prisoner within the walls. This is where Saladin's true character shone bright. He could have taken the city by storm and unleashed his soldiers. Vengeance for the 1099 massacre was a powerful motivator, but Saladin chose a different path. He chose magnanimity. He agreed to spare the city and its inhabitants. He allowed the Christians to ransom themselves for a small fee. Those who couldn't pay were, by the laws of war, to be enslaved. But Saladin and his brother, al-Adil, moved by pity, paid the ransom for thousands themselves. He ensured an orderly departure, with no violence or looting. He even provided guards to escort the departing Christians safely to the coast. When his soldiers entered Jerusalem on October 2nd, 1187, the contrast with the First Crusade could not have been more stark. There was no slaughter. The Christian holy places were respected. Saladin's triumphant entry into Jerusalem was a moment of immense political and religious significance, but it was his mercy that would echo through history, earning him the admiration of even his European chroniclers. The fall of Jerusalem sent shockwaves across Europe. It sparked the Third Crusade, led by the three most powerful kings in Christendom: Frederick Barbarossa of Germany, Philip Augustus of France, and the legendary Richard the Lionheart of England. The stage was set for a clash of titans. Barbarossa tragically drowned on his way to the Holy Land. Philip, after helping recapture the port city of Acre, returned to France. This left Richard the Lionheart as the sole commander of the Crusader force, and the primary rival to Saladin. What followed was a remarkable 2-year campaign, a duel of wits, strategy, and mutual respect between two of history's greatest military leaders. Richard was a brilliant tactician and a fearsome warrior, winning key battles like the one at Asaf, but he could never land a decisive blow. Saladin, though defeated in some engagements, played a masterful defensive game. He harassed Richard's supply lines, shadowed his army, and denied him the final battle he craved. He knew Richard's army was far from home and couldn't sustain a long war. During this intense conflict, a strange and chivalrous respect grew between the two men. When Richard fell ill with a fever, Saladin sent him fresh fruit and snow from the mountains to cool him. When Richard's horse was killed in battle, Saladin sent him to fresh mounts, saying it was not right for such a great king to fight on foot. They exchanged gifts and courteous messages, even while their armies were locked in combat. Ultimately, Richard realized he could not retake Jerusalem. He was needed back in England. In 1192, he and Saladin negotiated the Treaty of Ramla. Jerusalem would remain under Muslim control, but the treaty guaranteed that unarmed Christian pilgrims would have free and safe access to the city's holy sites. It was a pragmatic and honorable conclusion to a brutal war. Just a few months after Richard departed, in March of 1193, Saladin died of a fever in his beloved Damascus. He was only 55. When his treasury was opened, his family was shocked to find there was almost no money left. He had given away his immense wealth to his subjects, to charity, and to the cause he served. He died, not as a rich emperor, but as a humble servant of his faith. Saladin's legacy is immense. He wasn't just a conqueror. He was a unifier, a builder, and a man of deep principle. He was a devout Muslim who fought a holy war, but he treated his enemies with a chivalry and mercy that made him a legendary figure, not just in the Islamic world, but in the Christian West as well. His story reminds us that even in the midst of the fiercest conflicts, qualities like honor, respect, and compassion can shine through, creating a legacy that transcends the battlefield. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the life of a historical giant, Please hit that like button and subscribe for more epic stories from the past. Let me know in the comments which historical figure you'd like to see covered next. See you in the next video.